Hello, Brainerd Carey here, and today I'm giving a talk on becoming a curator as an artist to benefit your career, build more connections, and generally help you out in your career. So to begin with, why become a curator? I mean, this was a topic that I was asked to speak on, and I think it's a really pertinent one and good to discuss. And of course, I'll get to your questions afterwards. So I want to just first, as always, thank everyone for being members in this supportive, loving tribe here in Praxis Center for Aesthetics. I so appreciate all your questions and input, and especially your support of each other. I think supporting each other in artistic communities is enormously important for the survival of artists, right? It's a lonely profession. So getting together, and when people post struggles they're having or success they're having, I really love to see all you guys supporting them. That means the world to me, and it's what makes this a community, not just a Q&A forum. So thank you for that. Thanks for all the love and support you guys share with everyone here. So okay, on to the talk, which is about becoming a curator to enhance and support your practice, to build connections in the art world. The example I want to give today and build on to tell the story of is a woman named Michelle Grabner. Michelle Grabner is from Wisconsin. She went to undergraduate school in Wisconsin, then she went to Northwestern for an MFA, and then she was living in the suburbs of Chicago. She currently teaches at the Art Institute of Chicago, but she likes to say she applied there several times and never got in. So Michelle Grabner is an artist. She curates a small space with her husband. So this is how it began. She's in a suburb of Chicago. She's living there with her husband, and she starts a small space. She calls it the Suburban. And the reason she called it the Suburban is because it was in suburbia, where she was setting up this little gallery to curate. Now let me be clear what this gallery is. It's her garage, and her garage is a 10 by 10 foot single car kind of cement block, cinder block garage. Not a glorious space, not good lighting in there. And not in a good place. It's in a suburb that's hard to get to. Okay, but this was her idea to become a curator as well as an artist, and it got her very, very far. She not only succeeded as an artist, had a lot of shows, she was also a curator, one of the co-curators of the Whitney Museum Biennial. So she's a great example of how an incredibly humble start in curating got her very, very far. So okay, again, to go back to how she started and what she did, because I interviewed her and I know all the details of exactly what she did. So essentially what she did was she began inviting artists to show in this space. An artist that she liked, or maybe she saw an artist at a show, and she said at first she had a lot of nerve. She would ask artists who are fairly well known and already represented by a gallery. And she'd say, listen, I'd like you to do, invite you to do a small show at our space. It's an alternative space in the suburbs. You could do something different there, anything you want. It's not a very big space, but you'd have it all. And there'd be, a small catalog essay, and I'll make a little catalog about it, and would love to have you there. I'll also, put you up for a few nights to install the work. Otherwise, we don't have any money for this. And so what she would do is she'd invite people like that. She'd have largely one-person shows, sometimes two-person shows. They'd come over to her house. They'd sleep on it. She had two kids, infants at the time. They would sleep on the couches in her house, or in an air mattress on the floor. Nothing glorious. She said, they'd have breakfast with us. The kids are off to school. And they went to work, or they were doing freelance things, her and her husband. And she said, and then the artist or artists would, work on putting in their show. But she said, we also got to sit down and talk with the artists. So she was building connections that way, right? She was talking with more artists. But here's really the key to her success. She would write a small catalog essay. And she would print a very inexpensive small run catalog. Now you could do it on Blurb or other online print-on-demand sites. The catalog essay is critical to what a curator does, right? If you're a curator that just puts together shows and you have a nice show in a library or a local gallery and you invite 5 artists and then it's over, maybe you write a small press release, that's good, but not nearly as significant if you write an essay. All museum shows where curators do their thing and put together a show, they write an essay. It's what everything is about for a curator. They have to have something to say about the work. So they have to be able to get involved in the work somehow, right? And that's by talking to the artists, asking them more about it, and literally getting involved with the work. So the reason this is critical is because you make a small catalog and you send out a few of those catalogs. The artist gets 2 copies maybe, and you begin sending copies to places saying, you know, I'd like to curate a show at your university gallery. This is a catalog we recently did. She wasn't even doing much of that at first. I'm telling you what you could add on to it. She was just doing it in her little suburban garage. She called it the Suburban, and she would have shows in her 10 by 10 foot cinder block garage with poor lighting. That's how it started. But as she began learning more how to write an essay, and you know, an essay, you could look at other catalogs, museum catalogs, to see how curators write it, but also you're an artist, so you're able to ideally, you know, connect with what the other artists are doing in the show, because you're having dinner with them perhaps and talking to them. The show can be 2 weeks. You know, it can be only by appointment, you know, very, very minimal. So again, the pattern here was that she started in a very humble place, suburbs of Chicago, in a cinder block garage, 10 by 10 feet, you know, really unattractive space, right? And she started inviting artists. Artists like to be invited, even well-known ones, especially when you say you can do whatever you want in this space. You know, this isn't a commercial gallery. Work might be sold, but we're doing this because we just want to have a show and curate something great. You know, it's not about you making a lot of money off the show or the artist making money. They may already have other galleries or not, but it's not about that. It's about you being a curator, building connections with the artist, writing a small essay in the catalog, sending that out if you like, and building a reputation just from doing that. You do 4 or 5 shows a year, you start getting known as a curator, known quantity. The essays you write will also affect how people perceive you as a thinker and a curator. You know, what are you interested in? How do you talk about art? How do you write about art? You know, you can have other people help you with the essay or co-write it, but this is a powerful way to become a curator. Okay, what happened to Michelle Grabner is, you know, she loved the idea of doing this, you know, so she began raising money. She went back to her home in Wisconsin. She moved around quite a bit for jobs with her husband and kids. She went back to Wisconsin for a while, and there was a building there called the Poor Farm, or that's what residents called it. It was an area where at one point in history, as I understand it, it was kind of an institution where the poor would be housed. And she was kind of moved by the fact that it was a big, beautiful place. You know, it was like an institution, almost hospital-like place. They had really nice grounds, and nobody wanted it. It was inexpensive. It was also in Wisconsin, right? So what she decided to do was start a residency there. She started a residency. She called the residency the Poor Farm, and began raising money for it. It's not impossible to raise money for a residency, even in Wisconsin, so that artists could come there, apply, live there, work there for a certain amount of time a year. And of course, she's essentially curating the artists that are coming in there. So that's what grew out of it. Shortly after that, She was asked to co-curate a Whitney Biennial. At the same time, her art career continued to grow. She had shows in other galleries, in museums, and she continued to grow as an artist. So that's my story today about how you can become a curator in a really humble setting, in your garage, in a basement, wherever you want to do it. You know, keep it really simple, really easy to do, incredibly low budget. Curate an interesting show with one artist, two artists, and have an essay about it. It's easier to write an essay in a sense if you just have one artist, right? You have 6 artists or 7 artists, well, that's a lot to write about. Not that you can't, go for it if you want to do that, but this is the pattern, right? So you have a show, pick a space, could be in your house, could be in your apartment, could be in your living room. That's all cool. People do this all the time. They have apartment shows, living room shows. They're hip, it's cool. It's your small catalog essay that's critical to getting your thinking out there and then expanding your whole base. Of course, you're also bringing in other artists, some who might be well known. Have the nerve to ask them. They can always say no. But it's kind of cool. You're asking a well-known artist to do an apartment show. You know, they may come up with an idea that they can't do in their commercial gallery. So that's the pattern of how to do it. You'll naturally get connected by talking to other artists that you're bringing in. And when you make small catalogs and you can send them out to the press, to other places where you'd like to curate, and that will get you known too. You'll get respect, not just for the artist that you curate, but how you write an essay and talk about it. So I hope that's helpful. That's today's talk on how to become a curator and to do it in a way that will benefit your art career. So it's not that you're becoming a curator instead of artist, they're parallel careers. You continue to be an artist and show and try to get exhibits and residencies and everything else you want, as well as being a curator. So let's see, any questions? Who's here today? Lots of people. Hi, Carrie, Scarlett, Clyde, great to see you, Clyde, Luna, Leslie, Judy, let's see, lots of people here. Okay, glad that answered your question, Leslie. Los Angeles has Gina says, has a shed collective group of artists for alternative spaces. Cool, that's exactly the kind of thing that I think all of you should be looking into. Alternative spaces, artists creating collectives, coming together, making an alternative space. What Gina's talking about, the Shed Collective. Gina, if you could put a link in here to that, that would be great. Everyone should look at that. If you're in LA, obviously you could consider getting involved, but it's also a model. Artists coming together and making a collective, whether they're in a big city like LA or in a suburb, is powerful. That creates artist curators and allows for a lot of interactivity and exposure. So, okay. Very good. I don't see any more questions here today, but a lot of people were on. So great to have you all here. I want to just end by saying if you have questions here, you can answer them. And Scarlett's saying, yes, someone she knows does this out of his garage in San Diego. Okay. Rebecca says, I have the opportunity to curate a co-op gallery I'm part of. It would take 30 plus artists for 3 months, but I'm worried it will take up my extra time. Perhaps, Rebecca, then don't do it. Then don't do it. If it takes too much time, then don't do it. 30 plus artists, that is a lot of work to do. So, you know, go with your gut. Again, Rebecca, if you don't want to do it, don't do it. Much easier to do what Michelle did. 1 or 2 artists at a time in a space that you have total control over. I understand that you're part of that cooperative and could use that space. I would suggest having a space that's even more low-key, an apartment space, a friend's apartment space, a friend's garage. Keep it real low-key, really easy to curate, if you want to curate, Rebecca, and make the first attempt at it easy, not overwhelming, so you can write your essay and feel really great about curating one show. Let's see. How acceptable, let's see, will this be posted on Facebook? Yes, it will be posted on Facebook, Christine. Nice to see you. Okay, how acceptable is it to curate an artist in comparison with a professional curator? You mean how is it to curate as an artist curator as opposed to a professional curator? Same thing. Like the story I gave, Michelle Grabner. She's an artist. She started curating. She wasn't a professional curator. She just started doing stuff in her garage, her 10 by 10 foot cinder block garage. I mean, couldn't be less professional. She ended up co-curating the biennial at the Whitney Museum of American Art. She became a professional from that. Just as cool to do. So do I have a template for writing, Gina? The template for writing is a good question, Gina. Is there a template for writing these essays? Look at any museum catalog. Grab a museum catalog. Grab the Whitney Biennial catalog this year. It's coming out in a month or so. There's an essay on every single artist in there. Follow that format. That's really, like, you know, top-notch way to do it, right? What the Whitney Biennial curators are doing to show off the 100 or so artists that are in there, and there's usually a page of an image or two of the artist and a very brief essay on a page or less. That would be the template. Pick up that book if you can. It should be out soon. Surupa, how do you handle insurance for the art that you curate? Okay, insurance, generally, like what Michelle did, there was no insurance. She didn't have insurance. You're showing in my garage, you know, the insurance for work usually never covers damage, ironically, right? When you have insurance for a space, what it usually covers is liability. I owned a gallery for a while. I had you know, when I was living in Rhode Island, and the person who was renting me the space said, you have to have insurance in there, at least $500,000 worth. What I learned that was liability insurance. That's if a painting falls off the wall, hits somebody on the foot, breaks their toe, I need to have insurance to cover that broken toe. Obviously, extremely unlikely to happen. I did get that insurance. It was really cheap, like $250 a year. You probably don't need to get that at all. If you're having an apartment show or a show like Michelle had, it's up to you. But as far as I know, she didn't have any insurance. Insurance on the paintings getting damaged, you can always call a local insurance company and ask about that. Very unusual to have that covered. Usually when they do cover it, it's cost of materials. Even if the artist is very well known, it has to be appraised. There has to be a very specific value to it, and they're going to want to restore it before replacing the value of it. So in terms of insurance, if you're concerned about that, talk to a local insurance company and say, I'm opening up a space and I want to know if you would cover insurance for art and liability in that space. If they don't, they'll tell you who does, but the examples I'm giving were without any insurance like that. Let's see. Can you include your own work in the exhibition? Or is that not cool? Christina asks. Yes, you can include your own work in the exhibition. Many artist curators do. It's up to you. It's up to what you want to do. Again, Michelle Grabner often did. Sometimes she did, but she only had a 10 by 10 space. It was teeny, right? So she was curating one artist at a time in most cases. You're the artist curating it. People are most likely in your home or apartment. They're also going to see your art. It's most likely around or part of it if they go to use the bathroom or something, right? They're going to see your work. But you can absolutely curate your work in a space. For example, if you're curating work of icons of other artists, then absolutely, and you make icons and your work should be in there. If you're curating work of landscapes of other artists, local landscapes, let's say, and you also make landscapes, then your work should be in there too. Again, keep it simple, I would suggest. Okay, thanks everyone for being here. That's my talk for today, and I want to again thank you all for being part of this group, for being part of the love and support that other artists are feeling in this group when you comment on their posts or cheer them on or congratulate them or comfort them when they're having a difficult time or a struggle. All that is enormously meaningful and is what makes a community. And that's besides a knowledge base here. This is a community of artists. And so I thank you all for being so involved and so sincere about it. For those of you who are seeing this later, you can, of course, still ask questions in this thread, or you can post questions. And for all of you who want to see me talk about another topic, don't hesitate to suggest another topic. Just post it in the discussion, and I will talk about another topic, as I have several coming up that are all suggestions. So if there's something I haven't covered that you want covered, please ask. And I'll do a video on it just like I am today. These happen either every Thursday or Friday of just about every week. So I wish you all well in your artistic practice. Thank you all for attending today, and I look forward to hearing more from you in the group.